like, support, comment. That will help the channel to grow. Let's start.
Looking at here is basically an oral time capsule. It's this cultural memory that somehow folds, maybe 12,000 years of human history?
1,000.
Roughly, yeah. From the Upper Paleolithic right up, essentially, to the present day, all in this one narrative stream.
Okay, right. Let's try and unpack this monster then. Our source material, and it's extensive, organizes this vast mythology into 9 main thematic cycles. And our mission today, our goal for this deep dive, is to go beyond just retelling the stories.
Yeah.
We want to find those, deep nuggets of insight, specifically where the mythology stops being just poetry and starts acting almost like a technical manual.
That's a great way to put it.
Yeah, for things like metallurgy, complex applied ethics, even what look like early engineering principles. It's wild.
Before we jump in, though, we really need to understand who these heroes, the Narts, actually were.
Oh.
It's important. They weren't a single tribe, not defined by ethnicity.
Right.
It was more a status. The word Nard itself means something like hero of stature. The sources get really specific, calling them those big enough to cast a shadow before noon.
I love that definition. It's so evocative. They don't just exist. They literally shape the light around them. They were the pinnacle.
Exactly.
And the big reveal, the thing we've been hinting at, is the shocking specificity of their magic. These stories written down centuries ago describe these enchanted objects and technologies that have these startlingly direct parallels to cutting edge 2025 level engineering.
Yeah,
so mind blowing.
It really forces you to reevaluate, doesn't it? Are these just, flights of fancy, or are we looking at incredibly detailed, carefully preserved functional descriptions?
Like blueprints.
Almost, yeah. Or as you suggested, maybe something like flight test reports, but written down as epic poetry. So for today, we're going to treat these sagas not just as stories, but as a kind of documentation.
Okay, documentation. Let's do it. Part 1, the foundational cycles. Stone, giants, and the sun. Cycles 1, 2, and 3.
Right at the beginning.
Start right at the absolute foundation. Cycle 1, the birth and progenitor. This introduces Warzimeg, the very first Nart, and establishes that core idea defining them. The Narts are children of stone and antler.
And this origin story immediately places them in the deep history of the land itself. The myth is quite specific. After the mountains were formed, the valleys were still empty, and Warzimeg emerges not from a human mother, but from a single, standalone red rock on the slopes of Mount Elbruz.
A rock?
Yeah, a smooth rock, like an egg, no bigger than a mare's belly, apparently.
And the birth itself isn't biological, it's geological.
Yeah.
Almost mechanical, like you said. The rock supposedly listened to the mountain storms for 9 years.
Exactly. 9 years. And it doesn't crack from someone hitting it. It cracks from within, from the sound of its own, let's say, maturity, triggered by the thunder.
Wow.
And out steps Warzimeg, a fully formed boy. And get this, already wearing a tightly closed belt of iron. Already. And on that belt, a tiny hammer, no longer than your finger. It's an immediate, profound statement about who they are.
Right, so it connects their very origin directly to the dawn of metallurgy, that iron belt, but also to the most ancient spiritual symbols, the stone.
Precisely. For scholars, this origin clearly echoes Upper Paleolithic symbols and also those massive megalithic stone wombs you find in the Northwest Caucasus. Some date back as far as 12,000 BC.
12,000.
And one linguistic root for the name Nart literally means those who are rocked in stone. They are, in a sense, the memory of the landscape made flesh.
So their very birth seems to demand conflict, which takes us straight into cycle 2, the primordial conflict. The War of the Giants. And this isn't just some local skirmish, is it? It sounds cosmological.
Oh, absolutely. It's about defending the Caucasus Ridge itself. The Narts are fighting the F-City, this primordial race of one-eyed stone throwers.
One-eyed giants. Classic.
Yeah. They come from the northern plains, and their goal is apparently to flatten the mountains, throwing whole cliffs at them. The descriptions say they were enormous, tall as beech trees, and their heels were armed with polished millstones.
Armed heels, okay. And the sagas actually use this cosmic war to explain real-world geography, right? Like a kind of mythic geological record.
They do. The giants constantly throwing mountains around is cited as the reason the high valleys exist. They're the holes left behind by the mountaintops they ripped off and through.
Incredible.
And there's a great moment with Sosur. He's one of the main Nart heroes. He sees a mountain flying through the air towards the Nart settlement, and he just catches it. Catches a mountain midair, sets it back down on its roots, and declares, A hat belongs on a head.
A hat belongs on a head. Fantastic. It's the narts literally imposing order on chaos, defining permanence.
That's it, exactly. And notice how they defeat the giants. It's not just about brute strength. Pataras, another hero, drives his spear not into the giant's chest, but specifically into its armored heel.
The weak spot.
The weak spot. And where the giant's black blood spills onto the ground, the earth supposedly hardens instantly into ironstone deposits, which, incidentally, aligns with the actual mineralogy of the Kuban region.
So the myth encodes geological data.
Seems like it. And the chief giant even apparently shaves the southern face of Mount Elburz flat while fighting, which is the saga's explanation for why that huge volcano actually has a relatively flat southern slope.
It's just layer upon layer. And the final blow against the F-static, it's clever. It's a mix of tactics and, well, material science.
Yes. So Saruko realizes normal iron weapons just aren't working against the giant side. It's too primordial, too tough. So what does he do? He takes a massive bundle of dried juniper branches, sets it ablaze, and thrusts it into the giant's single eye.
Brutal, but effective.
Very. The sound of the eye extinguishing is described as like a snowfield melting in spring. Just an incredible sensory detail.
Wow.
Giants flee after that, tearing off more mountaintops as they go and throwing them into the sea, which the narts later identified as the islands now in the Black Sea.
And the immediate result for the heroes themselves. The story says they rode home and noticed their own shadows had grown longer.
Yes. Not just because they won, but because they had measured themselves against something truly world size. And that concept, measure, is absolutely critical. It flows right into the next cycle, cycle 3, establishing the charter myth, the cattle of the sun.
Right, so this cycle shifts focus. It's about recovery, about purity, and setting up a core ritual. The main story is the theft of this radiant, sacred herd of cattle that belongs to the sun goddess.
And retrieving them becomes the foundational myth for the Nart feast, the communal meal of meat and cheese.
The description of the loss is really something. The Sun Maiden wept tears of gold when her 90 spotted cows were stolen. Their hides were like snow dappled with blood, apparently. They grazed right up on the peak of the sky.
Beautiful imagery. And Betrez, who's maybe the most impulsive but also the purest Nart hero, he swears an oath on his own steel sword, "I will bring them back, or the world shall have no dawn."
High stakes.
Definitely. His quest leads him down into a crevice in the earth, which is guarded by this huge, menacing wolf.
The guardian of the threshold. And there's a riddle, isn't there? The wolf acts like a password gatekeeper.
Exactly. The wolf asks Betrez, "What is warmer than summer, colder than winter, and freer than the wind?" It's perhaps the most famous riddle in the entire Nart corpus.
And the answer.
Betrez knows it instantly. A Nart's word, his promise, his honor. It's conceived as this physical, self-contained force, warmer because it warms the heart, colder because it can't be swayed by emotion, and freer than wind because it travels bound only by itself.
That's a powerful concept of integrity.
It is. His word grants him passage. He goes down and finds the stolen herd in the underworld, but they're eating iron grass. And the giant Sadi is there, counting the sparks struck by their hooves as they graze. Supposedly, one spark for every lie a man would tell back on Earth.
Whoa. Okay, so does Betrez fight the giant?
Not initially. His first move is clever. He starts singing. He sings the lullaby his own mother sang to him while he was still waiting inside that stone womb we talked about.
Connecting back to the origin.
Exactly. And the cows, they remember. They remember the light, the sky, the sun. They stampede towards the surface.
And how do they get back up?
This is where it gets really mythical. Larks appear, thousands of them, and they carry the herd upwards on their backs.
Larks carrying cows.
Larks carrying cows. And this, the story says, is why the Song of the Lark today has that high, sort of clanking, metallic sound.
No way.
Yes, it's supposedly the echo of the iron grass rattling against their feet as they flew the cows back to the sky.
That's incredible mystic logic. What about the giant?
But Chaz deals with him on the way out. The giant's severed forearm gets left behind and turns into a massive black log of stone on the mountain ridge, serving as a kind of boundary marker.
Okay. And the consequence of getting the herd back, it establishes a ritual law, right?
A fundamental one. The decree is absolute. No Nart feast, no communal gathering where they share meat and cheese can ever begin until milk from a spotted cow, one like the sun's cattle, is poured out onto the ground as an offering to the sun.
So it locks together their identity, their food source, their code of honor, and their connection to the cosmos, all in one single physical act.
Precisely. It's the charter for their society.
Okay, that lays the groundwork.
Yeah.
Part 2. Ethics, iron, and autonomy, cycles 4 and 5. This feels like a shift.
It is. We move from these primal world-shaping events into questions of, well, existential ethics and social structure. Cycle 4 introduces these three crucial talismanic objects. It really deepens the theme of truth and contract.
This is the price of perfection cycle. The backstory is that the narts have become successful, maybe a bit too successful, complacent, proud, maybe cutting corners with the truth.
That's the setup. Warzameg himself observes this decline and says they need three things that simply cannot be corrupted by their pride. They need steel that cuts lies, a mare that can outrun death itself, and a cup that measures truth. And there's only one being who can make them. Tlept the Smith.
He sounds important.
He's more than just a craftsman, he's almost a force of nature. His forge is supposedly on the lip of a volcano. The sources say sparks from the forge nest in his beard like red bees, constantly buzzing with heat.
Wow, okay. And the creation of the first object, the sword, commits. The details are amazing.
Pure material science wrapped in myth. It's forged from a fallen star, a meteorite, folded and reforged 7 times. But the final quench, the tempering, is done in a very specific, bizarre mixture. Viper blood and fresh cow milk.
Viper blood and cow milk, why that combination?
The myth implies this paradoxical mix is what gives the blade its unique property. The edge of commit sings, it hums with a high note whenever a lie is spoken nearby.
It sings.
But its spine, the back of the blade, stays dull and cool if the person holding it speaks the truth. It physically reacts to honesty.
So the sword itself becomes the ethical judge. It embodies that nart value. Iron is contract, iron is truth. The material enforces the principle.
Exactly. Then there's the mare, Diasese. Tlepsh captures the literal west wind, crossbreeds it with a wild steppe mare, and the result is this creature so fast, it's said she creates her own dawn as she runs.
Creates her own dawn.
And her power is profound. She grants her rider autonomy over death. Not immortality, but the rider gets to choose the day they will die. Fate doesn't decide, they do.
That's a heavy gift. And the third object, the chalice egg.
Maybe the most fascinating of the three as a lie detector. It's carved from a single piece of crystal, but lined with this shimmering film derived from moonlight, moon film.
Moonful, okay.
And if a liar drinks wine from this cup, the wine instantly curdles, twists, and transforms into tiny serpents that bite the liar's lips.
Ouch, painful honesty test.
But look at the reward for truth. If a truth teller drinks, the wine doesn't just stay wine. It turns into a small white bird that flies out of the cup and sings the forgotten names of that person's ancestors.
So it doesn't just verify truth, it actively restores lost memory, connects you to your lineage. That's beautiful.
It is. But then comes the cost. Klepsch names his price for these perfect objects, and the narts, in their pride, apparently just laugh at it initially. He asks for something simple yet terrifying. The years you will not live.
The years they won't live, what does that mean?
Tlepsch strikes the earth with his hammer, and this figure appears described as an old child holding a scythe who literally collects the payment. The narts suddenly realize what they've done. The gifts are perfect, yes, but the price is the immediate shortening of their collective lifespan. Their time as a people is now finite and shorter than it should have been.
Wow. Okay, hold on. Let's unpack that ethical point. Why that specific price? Why not demand gold or service or territory? Why years of life?
Well, think about what they asked for. They wanted objects that guarantee perfect truth, control over their own fate, essentially cheating death, and a cup that bypasses deception entirely. These are things that you could argue belong only to the cosmos, the fundamental order of things, not to mortals. The Nauts are fundamentally human, despite their heroic stature. By trying to grasp these perfect absolute things, they tried to cheat the natural entropy, the limits of their age. They violated that core principle we keep seeing, balanced exchange.
So the price had to be equally fundamental their own time.
Exactly. The gifts, ultimately, are never worth the cost, because by possessing these perfect things, they paradoxically become unworthy of keeping them. The stories say the sword eventually flies back to Tlepch's forge on its own. The cup shatters if someone swears a false oath over it. You simply cannot cheat the ethical balance, even with the most advanced magical technology.
That establishes such a profound moral baseline for their world. And speaking of upsetting the established order, let's move to cycle 5. The women who ride. This sounds like a major social upheaval.
It's absolutely crucial, and it's one cycle where the mythology seems to strongly echo actual history. It reflects the archaeological evidence we have of Sarmatian and Alan burials, roughly 400 BC to 400 AD, where high-status women were buried with weapons and horse tack. Clearly, women held significant martial and social power in related cultures.
So the myth is remembering or encoding that reality.
It seems very likely. The core motif is clear. The female narts seized the ritual right to carry weapons and, significantly, to choose their own lovers and husbands, turning marriage negotiations into a battle of wits.
And the leader of this revolution.
Satya, often called Mother of 100 Councils. She's this quasi-divine figure, immensely wise and cunning. She observes that the Nart men have grown lazy, maybe arrogant. They're measuring their worth by how many cows they own, not by the strength of their word or the sharpness of their spear.
So she decides to shake things up.
Dramatically. 7 Nart maidens, led by her example, cut off their long braids, a powerful symbol of their traditional roles.
Right.
And they weave these braids into a single, strong bridle. Then they use this bridle to capture and mount the wild steppe mares, horses that no man had ever been able to tame. The symbolism is potent. They turn their femininity into the very instrument of command and control.
Taking the reins, literally.
Literally. And Della, the youngest maiden, is portrayed as the most defiant. She puts on her father's coat of mail, but wears it inside out.
Inside out.
As a statement. When her father shouts in shame, seeing her in armor, she calls back, "A woman in armor is like a plow in the sea. Useless and dangerous, right? Then watch the sea plow." And she gallops her wild horses, challenging their authority.
Wow. That's bold. How do the men react?
They try to reassert control with a final, impossible challenge. They declare that any woman who wants these new rights must pay a bride price to the community. She must bring back the whiskers of the great grave boar.
The grave boar sounds ominous.
A monstrous beast from the underworld, essentially untouchable. But St. Naya steps in. She confronts the charging boar, and instead of using a weapon, she simply unplaits her own incredibly long hair. The strands instantly transform into a dense thicket, a forest of spears that tracks the boar.
Her hair becomes a weapon,
Yeah,
showing her intrinsic power.
exactly. Della then calmly steps forward and cuts the boar's whiskers off with just her thumbnail. They take the boar's enormous tusks and nail them significantly upside down to the door of the men's council house.
A symbol of the complete reversal of power.
Unmistakably. And this act forces a change in the marriage rights. From then on, Dela chooses her own husband, the hero Comets. She binds him with her own girdle and leads him 3 times around the ritual fire, specifically in the manner of a rider leading a horse.
She takes the lead.
Completely. The new formula is established. She, who holds the rein, drives the tail. Marriage becomes a contest of wits, not just property exchange. The groom must bring a horse as his contribution, yes, but the bride brings a riddle.
For riddle.
Yes. And if the groom can't answer her riddle, she keeps the horse he brought, and he has to wear her girdle until the next new moon, publicly signifying his submission to her intellect. It's a radical shift in gender dynamics encoded in ritual.
Absolutely fascinating. Okay, let's move into the later cycles dealing with tougher themes. Part 3, mortality, scarcity, and the end. Cycle 6, 7, and 9.
Right. These cycles confront the unavoidable limits of human existence. Death, hunger, the eventual fading of even a heroic age. Cycle 6, the trade of the shadow, tackles mortality head-on, and the price of securing sustenance.
So what's the setup here?
The earth has grown barren, the seed grain isn't sprouting. Warzameg intuits that the earth itself is somehow hungry for a story. It needs a narrative of consequence, perhaps sacrifice, to become fertile again. So Pateraz, the down-bearded, volunteers to descend into the underworld through a crater guarded by, again, a wolf.
Another wolf guardian. Seems to be a pattern.
A guardian of passages. And this is where the metaphysical bargain happens. The wolf doesn't demand strength, but something specific. It asks Pateraz to give up the one thing a man possesses that he cannot keep after the sun sets.
Of his shadow.
His shadow. Pateraz understands. He draws his sword and literally cuts his own shadow away from his feet, excising his connection to mortality, and throws it to the wolf as payment.
Wow. That establishes a really stark equation in their worldview. Shadow,
Yeah.
mortality, but maybe also
Wait.
presence.
Exactly. Recognition, weight in the world. He gives it up. He descends through 9 layers of the earth and finds the Lord of the Dead. This figure sits on a throne made entirely of dried, dead seed grains.
A throne of potential life, but inert.
And the Lord confirms the immense cost of Pateraz's bargain. A man who walks without shadow walks without death, he says, and death resents the theft. But he grants Pateraz a fistful of seed grain. Pateraz returns to the surface. The grain miraculously rattles like a whole mountain's worth, and when planted, it grows into a full harvest overnight. Hunger is averted.
But there's a price for him personally, isn't there? The lack of shadow.
A terrible price. Because he's without shadow, he finds he is without weight or consequence in the world of the living. Dogs don't bark at him anymore. If he leans against a wall, the wall doesn't seem to register his presence. It forgets him the moment he moves away. He's stolen a piece of death's domain, and now life itself sort of rejects him. He's become insubstantial.
That's incredibly poignant. How does his story end?
With a final, moving sacrifice. He realizes his state is untenable. He takes the very last seed grain remaining from that underworld harvest, swallows it, and commands the earth, take what is yours. He essentially plants himself, becoming the source, the sacrifice that ensures future harvests. His body becomes the resource.
Turning himself into the story the earth needed.
Precisely, and the ritual that comes from this is deeply resonant. At every Nart grave, they plant 3 seeds. One for the person who died, one for the living who remain, and one for the shadow, that intangible connection that walks between the 2 worlds.
That's beautiful. And this profound understanding of consequence, of paying the price, it leads directly into cycle 7, right? The necessity of want.
Yeah.
Or sometimes called the flood of milk and honey.
Yes. They've seemingly solved the problem of hunger through Pateraz's sacrifice, but they haven't solved the problem of, well, human nature, morality.
So what happens? They have endless food now.
Pretty much. Setnaya, sometimes called Setnai, who keeps the store in this cycle, she manages this abundance. She has this huge amphora, a giant jar, sealed with 3 bronze hoops. She just tilts it slightly, and the exact measure of bread, cheese, mead, whatever is needed for the day, pours out. No more, no less. Perfect, measured sufficiency.
Measure again. That word keeps coming.
It's central, but the system is fragile. A young, arrogant Nart, apparently drunk on his own praise after some victory, snatches the amphora from Setnaya. He shouts, "Let us see how much pleasure the world can hold," and smashes it on the ground.
Oh no, he broke the measure.
He rejected the very concept of limitation. And the result isn't a flood of water, it's an ecological catastrophe of pure abundance. Milk pours out like white rivers, honey and mead rise up to the rafters of their halls, literally lifting the roofs off the buildings.
Drowning in plenty.
Exactly. Even Fletch, the master smith, can't contain it. His iron tools melt in the overwhelming sweetness. He tries to build a dam out of cheese, but the river of honey just carries it away. The problem isn't the food itself, it's the loss of measure, the loss of any kind of boundary or limit.
And what does this do to the Norts?
It destroys their society from within. Without any need, without any want, they forget the word hunger. And because they forget hunger, they forget gratitude. They stop sharing. They stop inviting the gods, the managers, to their feasts because they don't need anything from them anymore. Their entire moral structure collapses under the sheer weight of infinite unearned pleasure.
So abundance becomes poison. How do they fix it?
Sadisnaya has to intervene again. But this time, it's not a huge heroic act. It's a small, precise, almost homeopathic sacrifice. She pricks her own finger with a needle. 3 drops of her blood fall into the flood.
Just 3 drops.
Just 3. And each drop becomes a tiny black ant. These 3 ants start drinking the flood of milk and honey. They drink and drink until they literally burst. And where they burst, the overwhelming, cloying sweetness sours, transforms into vast plains of white salt.
Salt. The preservative, but also scarcity.
Exactly. Scarcity returns, walking on 2 feet, as the saga says. And the Narts have to learn to call scarcity guest. They have to welcome limitation back into their world. Salt, the thing that preserves food but also creates thirst, restores the necessary balance of want. It allows them to rebuild their morality around the idea of sharing a limited resource again. The lesson is brutal. Unlimited plenty destroys the human spirit.
Wow, heavy stuff. Okay, finally, we need to jump ahead to cycle 9. The echo of the race. This deals with the end, the twilight of the Narts.
The heroic age can't last forever. The sagas describe this fading. The Narts' great stone chairs start to crack. Their legendary weapons grow dull by themselves. The vibrant green Nart meadow turns to barren stone. It's entropy taking hold.
But it's not a complete end, is it? There's a survivor motif.
Yes. The core idea is that a single child and a single mare managed to escape this twilight, carrying the essence of the Narts, the word and the hoofbeat, out of the fading heroic age and into the world of ordinary human beings.
And there's an object involved again, is there?
There is. The boy, found asleep between 2 standing stones, is clutching a small iron ball, no bigger than a walnut. The sources explicitly state this is the very last spark struck from Klepsh's mighty forge, the last remnant of their defining technology and truth.
So this cycle acts as the bridge, the transition layer.
Precisely. It's the mechanism that allows the saga itself to survive into historical times, moving into the Christian and Islamic periods in the Caucasus, roughly 900 to 1800 AD. The physical narts fade away, but their story, carried by this boy and mare, begins to travel among humans.
And the description of their journey.
It's beautiful and, again, functional. Where the mare's hoof struck, grass sprouted. Where the boy spoke, men remembered. He is the living memory, the last spoken word of the Nart age.
And running through all of this right to the very end is that idea of the balanced gift.
The absolute spiritual constant. Everything costs something. Every gift must be paid for. But the price paid, whether it's years of life or a shadow or a sacrifice, must never be hoarded. It has to be put back into circulation, travel again, to maintain the ethical and cosmic equilibrium. That's the engine driving their universe.
Okay, that provides a perfect transition. Let's talk about the Nart pantheon itself in part 4. You called it a bureaucracy of exchange.
Yes, because to really grasp the Nart worldview, you have to understand their spiritual structure.
Yeah.
And it's radically different from, say, the hierarchical Abrahamic faiths or even the Greek Olympic system. It's far less about worship and much more like, a highly organized, functional system for managing cosmic forces. A bureaucracy.
I love that framing. So the gods aren't sitting on high judging morality.
Not primarily, no. They're more like highly specialized craft masters or divine department managers.
Yeah.
You essentially hire them for a specific task by performing the correct ritual, offering a specific song, a particular sacrifice, maybe telling the right story, and in return, they deliver a specific agreed upon product or service.
So the hero's journey we see in the sagas. It's basically a series of cosmic contracts.
Exactly, a chain of subcontracts. And the payment is always some fragment of life or essence years off your lifespan, your shadow, the ability to choose your death day. The Narts didn't really pray for favors, they negotiated terms.
Let's nail down those core spiritual markers again, the ones that keep appearing. We've got stone.
Right, stone as the womb, the source, but also as memory, the repository of deep time.
Iron.
Iron is the physical form of contract of truth, the unbreakable bond, the sharp edge of reality.
The wolf.
The perpetual guardian of thresholds, the gatekeeper between worlds, the embodiment of passage and danger.
And the horse.
The horse as the measure of time, the vehicle of fate, speed, and freedom, the pulse of the step.
Okay, and who's at the top of this?
Bureaucracy.
The supreme being is generally Suetzal, the skysmith, but he's almost too vast, too remote to deal with directly. He forges the years themselves, creates the structure of time, but he delegates the day-to-day operations.
To the manager. To the 7 managers, yes. The Avid's War. They are the real engine room of the cosmos, the heads of the divine departments.
And these 7 roles are pretty stable across different versions of the sagas.
Remarkably stable, yes, even if the specific names vary slightly between, say, the Assatian and Circassian editions. You always have Ustiji. He's the patron of war, but also significantly of roads and travelers. He grants the horse, ensures safe passage. His core principle is pragmatic. Let the rider's shadow never fall behind him, meaning always be moving forward, always ready.
Keep momentum.
Okay, who else? Then there's Uatsila. He manages grain and the harvest. He provides the actual seed, the technology of the sickle. He's responsible for the food that gets you through the winter. Survival tech.
Crucial.
Absolutely. Kurtalegan handles the most fundamental Nart element.
Yeah.
The smith fire. He forges iron, maintains the forge, and crucially provides the truth edge by cooling the blade in that specific viper blood and cow milk mix. His work ensures that iron learns to hate lies.
Metal with built-in ethics. Love it. What about the natural world?
Managed by a pair. Afsadi governs the wild beasts, the forest, the hunt. He grants luck in hunting, but also demands respect for the wild, often sealed with the wolf pledge. His counterpart is Felvera, who oversees the domestic herd's cattle, sheep, the source of milk and cheese. She embodies the contract between humans and domesticated animals. In some stories, she struck the hooves of the first spotted cows on rocks to create the first anvils.
Linking the herd to the forge. Nice. 2 more.
Done better. He's the lord of waters, rivers, lakes, springs. He governs rainfall and, importantly, the power of mills. His daughters are the river spirits who, tireless like the water, turn the millstones. He controls irrigation and water power.
So every essential aspect of their life, war, travel, food, metalwork, hunting, herding, water, has a dedicated manager.
Precisely. And when a hero needs a specific outcome, a sword that cuts truth, a safe journey, a good harvest, success in the hunt, they don't just hope for it. They perform the correct ritual, sing the specific song associated with that manager, present the proper offering. It's transactional.
Like submitting a work order to the cosmic bureaucracy.
That's a perfect analogy. The hero's action, their quest, their sacrifice, that's the payment submitted. The successful outcome is the service delivered. And then there's Safa the host, who seems to be a kind of divine facilitator or chief of staff. He gathers the gods, the managers, after a task is done, verifies the exchange, and essentially signs off on the cosmic receipt. Account closed, this deed can now enter the saga, enter the tale.
The story itself becomes the record of the transaction.
Yes. And we absolutely have to mention Lady Satnaya again here. She's explicitly not one of the 7 managers, not quite a god.
Right.
But she possesses the wisdom, the cunning, and the longevity to navigate and sometimes outwit this entire divine bureaucracy. We saw it in the flood cycle, where she finds the solution the managers can't. She represents human ingenuity, maybe even a kind of feminine cosmic wisdom, operating alongside and sometimes manipulating the divine specialists. She knows the loopholes.
The ultimate system hacker. Okay, this brings us to the most mind-bending part, part 5.
Yeah.
Myth as technical manual, the Nart Tech catalog.
Right. This is where we really lean into the idea of the sagas as documentation. We shift from history and ethics to what look like detailed engineering protocols hidden within the descriptions of magic artifacts.
Let's treat these descriptions not as metaphors, but as literal blueprints and see what emerges.
Exactly. The level of technical detail embedded in some of these myths is just staggering when you look closely. Let's start with that impossible music box from the wedding of Zarasa. She's the daughter of Don Better, the Sea Lord.
Okay.
And his wedding gift, his dowry, is described as a crystal box.
And the myth says
What?
he puts it on a stone slab, turns a little silver wheel, and water inside starts whirling around while pipes begin to sing like hidden voices.
And the key effect. Every Nart present is physically compelled, to leap up and dance uncontrollably for 3 whole days.
Okay, that sounds like magic. How do we reverse engineer that with 2025 tech?
Okay, let's break it down. The crystal box, likely a precisely cut quartz resonator chamber. Quartz is piezoelectric, excellent for amplifying specific frequencies. The small silver wheel could easily be a crank-driven Archimedes screw. Turning it creates a controlled, turbulent flow within the water inside the chamber.
Okay, turbulent water flow. So what?
That specific kind of turbulent flow generates a predictable pattern of swirling eddies, technically called a von Karman vortex street. You see this pattern behind bridge piers in a river.
Okay, I think I can picture that, like little whirlpools peeling off.
Exactly. And these vortices create regular rhythmic pressure pulses in the water. These pulses then excite reeds or pipes within the chamber, the pipes that sing. This generates sound, but critically likely very low frequency sound.
Infrasound.
Precisely. The description of involuntary, uncontrollable dancing points directly to the effects of infrasound in the 12 to 18 hertz range. This frequency band is known to directly stimulate the human vestibular system, the balance organs in your inner ear. It can cause feelings of unease, disorientation, and significantly involuntary muscle contractions and movement.
So it's not magic compelling them to dance. It's their inner ears being physically messed with by low frequency sound waves generated by controlled fluid dynamics inside a quartz chamber.
That appears to be a plausible technical interpretation of the myth's description, an ancient account of psychoacoustic technology based on weaponized fluid dynamics.
That is genuinely profound. Okay, let's keep going. Undersea tech, Don Better's domain again, the hero Soslan needs to visit his underwater palace. He gets wrapped in something called an iron and warm string, a struna, and this allows him to breathe underwater for 3 days.
The strand suit. This description is just remarkable. Let's decode struna. Iron suggests strength and resilience. String, or strand, suggests flexibility, maybe a mesh. Warm is key.
Right.
A plausible analog is a suit made from a mesh of hollow nitty microtubes. Nitinol nickel titanium alloy is a sheet memory metal, super elastic, strong like iron, but flexible like string.
Okay, nitinol mesh. What about the warmth? Deep ocean is freezing.
The tubes could be filled with reactants for a simple exothermic chemical reaction. For example, calcium chloride and a small amount of water sealed in compartments. When activated, maybe by flexing the suit, they release heat, keeping the wearer warm against the cold. Basic chemical heating pack tech integrated into the suit.
Clever. But the breathing, 3 days underwater, that's the real miracle, surely.
This is the most advanced part. The walls of these hollow nitinol tubes could be coated or constructed with a semi-permeable silicone membrane. Certain silicones allow gas exchange. They let dissolved oxygen from the surrounding water diffuse in through the membrane, while allowing waste carbon dioxide from the wearer's respiration to diffuse out.
Breathe. like an artificial gill.
Exactly. It's essentially a blueprint for a passive SCUB system, an artificial gill built into the fabric of the suit. It matches precisely the description of breathing underwater for an extended period without air tanks. We're literally just prototyping this kind of tech now, with things like the Stanford artificial gill mesh concepts from 2024.
So the myth describes a self-warming, self-breathing, flexible armored dive suit thousands of years ago.
The description fits astonishingly well, and the tech inside Dawnbetter's palace is just as advanced. The whalebone submarine hull, built on massive whale ribs, the myth says.
Why whale ribs?
Whalebone is incredibly strong and pressure resistant due to its microscopic structure. But more importantly, the shape described arches made from the ribs points to catenary geometry. A catenary arch, like the Gateway Arch in St. Louis, when under uniform external pressure, like deep sea water, experiences only compression or tension forces, no bending stress. It's the absolute optimal shape for a deep sea pressure vessel, naturally derived.
Engineered using natural materials and optimal geometry.
Yeah.
What else? There was a sound key door.
Yes, the entrance only opens if you say the name of water.
Which sounds purely symbolic.
Or purely technical. It translates perfectly to an acoustic lock. The lock mechanism could be tuned to respond only to the specific resonant frequency generated by speaking a certain set or sequence of phonemes, maybe the sibilants and liquid sounds in the word for water in their language, like LA. These sound waves could trigger a piezoelectric plate or resonate with a specific structure, like a tiny cavitation bubble tuned to that frequency, unlocking the door. The sound is literally the key.
Acoustic password. Incredible. And the power source down there, the whale oil lamp that burns underwater without oxygen. Impossible, right?
Impossible with a normal flame, yes. But the description perfectly matches a closed-cycle combustion reactor.
Okay, what's that?
Think of a system that recycles its own exhaust. It burns a high-energy fuel, the whale oil, a lipid rich in energy. But instead of needing external oxygen, it uses an internal oxidizer, perhaps stored, or it burns within its own recycled, pressurized carbon dioxide exhaust. The heat from the reaction itself could vaporize more fuel and drive a small turbine or pump to keep the cycle going. It's a self-contained underwater power source. The myth provides a functional description.
Okay, my mind is officially blown. Let's move from the depths to the sky. Aerial tech. Cycle 8 talks about flying machines. Kozer's flying tower.
Yes, the Nart woman Kozer has this stone tower that she makes rise into the air, apparently just by singing to it. Later, the hero Soslan tries to control it, finding he can make it go up or down by moving a specific door handle or lever inside.
Singing a tower into the sky. That sounds purely magical.
Unless the singing is a description of the sound it makes, and the mechanism is acoustic levitation.
Levitation by sound. On the scale of a whole stone tower.
Theoretically, yes, if powerful enough. The tower itself could contain multiple large Helmholtz cavities, chambers specifically designed to resonate powerfully at very low frequencies infrasound again.
Like giant organ pipes built into the walls.
Sort of. These generate focused, high-intensity sound waves directed downwards. These sound waves exert physical acoustic radiation pressure. If directed against a reactive medium, like the Earth or maybe even the ionospheric plasma layer high above,
It could provide lift.
it could provide significant lift. And the door handle or lever Soslan uses, that wouldn't be structural, it would be the control mechanism. Moving it could slightly change the shape or aperture of the Helmholtz cavities, thus subtly altering the resonant frequency or amplitude, essentially. A mechanical joystick to control the acoustic lift engine for ascent and descent.
A massive, manned, infrasound-powered drone platform. Made of stone.
The description fits the physics surprisingly well. Then there's Kurtalagon, the Smith god, and his fire-rich chariot. It's described as riding on the crest of a fiery storm, traveling immense distances almost instantly.
Riding a lightning storm.
Sounds like it. This could be interpreted as an atmospheric MHD surfboard.
MHD.
Magnetohydrodynamics. Using magnetic fields to control electrically conductive fluids, or plasma. The chariot could generate a powerful magnetic field. When flying through a thunderstorm, it harnesses the immense electrical current of a lightning strike. The interaction between the lightning's current and the chariot's magnetic field creates a powerful Lorentz force,
A physical push.
a massive physical push. This force acts on a specialized chassis, maybe a sheet of contained plasma, propelling the chariot upwards and forwards along the storm front at incredible speeds. It's literally surfing the electromagnetic power of the storm. The myth mentions covering 7 days' journey in 7 heartbeats, suggesting near supersonic travel powered by lightning.
This is This is beyond science fiction. Okay.
Sure.
Lastly, let's quickly summarize the Interworld Travel Kit. These portal technologies that sound like magic but seem to be described as engineering protocols.
Right. We saw the Wolf Gate for descending to the underworld. Padaraz had to trade his shadow.
Which we decoded as.
Possibly a biometric triggered drop shaft. The shadow isn't just metaphysical, it's his unique identifier, the key card. Maybe a retinal scan or thermal signature that unlocks the pressure hatch leading down a specific volcanic vent or deep cave system.
Okay. The water column elevator sauce line used to get down to Don Better's palace. Touch a silver string, water rises and carries him down.
The silver string could be an ion exchange filament. Touching it initiates a process that stabilizes a downward vortex lift, basically creating a controlled, contained whirlpool that functions as a liquid elevator shaft. Reverse waterspout tech.
Then the really high level stuff. Plepsh's mirror gate. Polishing a shield until it showed another sky, not his reflection, and staring through.
That sounds remarkably like creating a phase conjugate mirror portal. It's complex optical physics, but essentially it's a mirror that doesn't just reflect light, it reverses its phase and direction perfectly. Under specific conditions, with enough energy, such a surface could theoretically create a stable interface, an optical wormhole, allowing passage to a parallel location, Tlepsh's other workshop.
An optical wormhole generated by polishing a shield.
Right.
And finally, the emergency exit. The horn of the ridge.
Below the horn at a specific spot on the mountain, and the rock splits open like silk, revealing a path home. Pure acoustic resonance. Every material has a natural frequency at which it vibrates easily. If you hit rock with sound waves precisely matching its resonant frequency, you can induce stress fractures. The horn wasn't magic. It was a precisely tuned acoustic device designed to trigger geological fault lines, creating a geoacoustic emergency exit.
The entire catalog taken together.
Yeah.
It's less magic, more operating manual.
It really looks that way. Functional protocols for technologies that, frankly, are only just emerging from our most advanced labs today or are still theoretical. All documented in these ancient mountain epics.
Okay, let's try and wrap our heads around this. To synthesize this incredible deep dive, the narts sagas are just this unique cultural document, aren't they?
Yeah.
A palimpsest layering maybe 12,000 years of history. Everything from what looks like Paleolithic hunting magic right through complex Iron Age ethics and ending up with these proto-engineering principles.
Absolutely. And the single most critical thread running through all 9 cycles, the core lesson, seems to be that concept of measure and exchange. It's hammered home again and again.
Right. They learned that perfect gifts, like Lepsh's talismans, paradoxically shorten their days because the price is too high.
And they learn that unlimited abundance, the flood of plenty, completely destroys their morality because it removes the need for sharing and gratitude.
So their whole system, that whole divine bureaucracy of exchange we talked about, it was fundamentally about maintaining balance, about understanding that knowledge, power, resources, they're only truly valuable when they're understood, when they're earned, when the cost is acknowledged and paid.
Yes, and that payment has to keep circulating. It keeps the system honest, prevents the corruption that comes from hoarding power or getting something for nothing. It ensures technology remains a tool for measured survival, not a shortcut to hubris and self-destruction.
Which brings us to our final thought for you, the listener. It builds on that image of the survivor boy at the very end, carrying that iron ball.
That last spark from Tlepsh's forge.
Yeah. Which, the saga implies, eventually rusted into the soil and became the flint ordinary humans used to start their own fires, their own age of making. So if these myths really are, on some level, technical manuals for survival, detailing technologies and the ethical frameworks needed to wield them, it forces a pretty confronting question for us, doesn't it?
It does.
What are we paying for our own 2025 level technology, for our own versions of acoustic levitation, closed cycle reactors, genetic manipulation, AI? All are modern magic. What's the hidden cost in shortened attention spans, ecological damage, social cohesion?
And perhaps more importantly, are we even remembering to keep the tale alive? Not just the tale of our achievements, but the necessary story of the cost, the measure, the balanced exchange that the narts learned over millennia the hard way. Are we remembering the price? Welcome back to Deep Dive. Today, we're taking a pretty significant detour, leaving behind the more familiar Western myths to explore something really special. We're heading to the Caucasus Mountains.
Yeah, based on your request, we are diving deep, really immersing ourselves in the Narts sagas. These are, well, foundational epics for the Ossetian, Circassian, and Kabardian peoples. But here's the thing, we're not just looking at them as, cool adventure stories or folklore. We're treating this amazing body of work, this incredible tradition of storytelling, actually, as a kind of map, a genuine, detailed cosmological map of the world, and maybe even a guide for navigating life itself.
It's absolutely fascinating because
Yeah.
these sources really underline the Nart worldview. For them, the inner world and outer world, they're not separate. Magic isn't just window dressing. It's the language the culture uses to talk about really essential truths, consciousness, initiation. And you see these incredibly ancient patterns echoing all across Eurasia, actually. Patterns about transferring knowledge, about spiritual journeys, the whole relationship between our world and, well, the spirit world, the world of reflection. Every object, every trip, every sacrifice. It's like a key.
Okay, let's jump right in then, because the landscape itself seems key. I mean, it's all very vertical, isn't it? Mountains, descents. And that seems to be the first big theme we hit. The descent. Nart heroes are constantly going down into the otherworld. Dzins, J. Jeremy, Alum. These places, not just the trek, is it? It's where the real change happens, the initiation.
Exactly. These descents map almost perfectly onto things like the Axis Mundi concept or classic shamanic journeys. The hero, the shaman, has to travel that central world axis down to the underworld, up to the heavens usually to get power, bring back lost knowledge. And Atsamaz is a perfect first example, especially when you look at the role of creative expression, music in his case.
Right, Atsamaz and his famous golden harp, the Fender. And this isn't just any instrument, is it? It sounds like it's much more, almost a cosmic tool. Can you tell us about its origins, its power?
Well, first off, it was forged by Kurt Elegant,
Yeah.
this myth god himself. So right away, that tells you it's sacred, not man-made. And its power was, well, threefold, covering basically all aspects of community life. It could heal the sick, that's the Susfeljge. It could miraculously make bread appear, provide food, Bolesti Ragavive. And crucially, it could calm storms, bad weather, Arvefetsit. So it's not just entertaining people, it's literally keeping them alive, restoring balance, anchoring the whole Nart community.
And naturally, something embodying harmony. It has to be stolen by chaos, right? It gets snatched by this demon, Egso, ruler of the underground, Eldar Juns. The sources compare him to Dahak, the Iranian dragon, which tells you he's like primordial chaos, drought, disorder, that kind of fundamental threat.
Exactly. And Exhale steals it by becoming a Kereg, a whirlwind, a cyclone. Then he hides it deep underground in a fissure below Mount Eroth, which they explicitly call the gates to the land of the dead. It's important, too, that Kereg isn't just weather. It's like destructive, mindless nature personified, the total opposite of the harp's harmony. But Atsamaz isn't totally alone down there.
No, he needs a guide. And this is where the imagery gets incredibly wild. Tutor, the wolf god, helps him by summoning this huge emerald lizard, the Wasei Kudjuli. It's supposed to be older than the mountains. Why a lizard, though? That feels significant.
Well, the lizard, the Kedruli, is the perfect threshold guardian, precisely because it's chronic. Lizards live in cracks, right? They belong to the earth, ancient life, cold-blooded, moving between the surface and the deep places. And the Kedruli gives him this chilling warning before they go down. When your shadow disappears, we shrink. You must overcome the fear in your heart.
Okay, this is where the myth feels like it crosses into deep psychology. They go down through a fissure in an old gravestone classic otherworld entrance right at high noon. Atsamaz's shadow vanishes, and the instant it's gone, he feels squeezed to a point, Apsare Seged. And the giant lizard shrinks down to the size of a fingernail. What's that compression about? What does it mean for the Nart mind?
It's essential, that compression. You can't bring your everyday ego, your surface identity, your full physical self into the spirit realm. The shadow vanishing that's confronting the part of you that only exists in the light forces him inward. And the shrinking, it means your perceived importance, your size in the world, it has to be reduced, compressed to fit the reality of the underworld. It's like a forced humility,
And the challenges down there are elemental. Purification. They have to cross this river of molten copper, the Cirque Eifsen, guarded by fire spirits. That sounds intense. Purification by fire and metal.
Yeah, very industrial, primal heat. The Kedruli gets them across, it jumps 3 times, Arte Kariskukota, that sacred number again, and they make it. But the real test isn't physical, it's mental, emotional. Once Atsamaz gets to Exo's obsidian hall, he finds the singing stone, the Erdig Zareg.
And the stone sings a riddle, basically saying, if you want the harp, become what it desires. So he can't just be there to grab a magic item, he has to embody its purpose. Is it testing his motives? Making sure he's not just after power for himself?
Precisely. It's testing his intention. Selfless service versus just acquisition. And the harp itself gives him the clue, calling out, play. From the heart. Ends great. That's Muzz gets it then. The harp needs a duet. A connection of heart and, well, community purpose, not just him grabbing it. Yeah, so he stops trying to fight Eggsau directly. Instead, he sings. He sings the grief of the narts, the collective sorrow of the whole community that lost its harmony when the harp was taken.
Wow. So by giving up his immediate goal, beating the demon, and instead channeling that collective suffering through his music, he actually fulfills the harp's real purpose.
Exactly, he breaks the stone's power. And then, using that same sorrowful music, he sings a lullaby for dragons, the Zeki Kalme, and puts the mighty Eggsau to sleep. Storytelling itself through music becomes the ultimate weapon of order against chaos. He gets the harp back, and it then acts as an oracle, saying, to the living I grant wisdom. The journey wasn't just about getting the object back, it was about learning how to use its power responsibly.
That really drives home the point that the real prize is knowledge, self-reflection, not just strength. And we see this pattern again with Soslan, don't we? Though his goal is a bit different, he wants to free the souls of fallen narts from Jay-Duni, the land of ash.
Yeah, Jay-Duni is like the ultimate place of death, entropy, a volcanic dimension where souls are trapped in ash forever. To get there, Soslan uses another artifact from Kurtulagon, a shrinking copper bee, the Nikki Sayusuke. This little metal bee sheds layers of light as it flies down into the Stone of Tears on Mount Elbrus.
A copper bee shedding light. That's amazing imagery. And entering through a hole in the mountain peak, that sounds very much like the star hole in shamanic yurts, doesn't it? The cosmic chimney connecting the worlds.
It's the same idea, yes. The bee is the mediator, shedding light as it descends. Soslan faces his own trials, like a river of black fire, which he freezes with his magic flute, the Kalendis. And he has to endure the silent grief of the trapped souls, the forgotten sounds. But the ultimate key, the breath of lightning he needs to free them, turns out to be a riddle, a purely rational spark riddle.
So to free the souls, he has to solve a riddle about the shadow. He has to grasp concepts like absence, reflection, light. It's an intellectual test, not a physical one.
That's right. Only by solving this mental puzzle does he get the power to release the souls. And when they're freed, they fly up and become the constellation Soslan's path, which we know as Orion's belt. So the transformation isn't just personal, it's cosmological. The hero literally reorders the heavens through understanding.
Okay, so we've established that getting through these lower worlds successfully is all about gaining knowledge, wisdom, and often that wisdom seems to be guarded by or mediated through powerful female figures, or maybe structures that represent the cosmos itself, which seems like a perfect segue to our next big theme, these architectures of knowledge you mentioned.
Exactly. If the descent stories are about vertical travel, these next ones are more about centering, self-awareness. And the first figure we have to talk about is Satana, probably the most famous woman in the Nart sagas. She's unique, a woman warrior, but her power comes from insight, not just fighting.
Right, her power is intellectual, cosmic, observation. She uses the mirror of Arvaden, right? And she climbs the 7-tiered tower every dawn. We need to pause on that tower, 7 tiers. What's that signify here?
The tower is the cosmos, basically, the 7 levels of the world. By climbing it at dawn, Satana is doing this daily ritual of cosmic synthesis, bringing everything together. And the mirror of Arvaden literally shows everything. The 7 heavens, the 7 earths, the 7 levels below the earth. The texts call the mirror the archetype of all-seeing consciousness. Satana herself acts as the conductor between worlds. A bit like, a highly advanced Siberian shamanist, a Tangri Shamenka. She takes in the whole cosmos every single morning. She's the intelligence of the Nart world, in a way.
Wow. And where Satana sees the whole world, Akola seems to represent the absolute center of it, her iron tower. That sounds like the ultimate symbol of the cosmic core.
Oh, it's terrifyingly specific. The osmic center, the axis mundi. It stands between 2 seas on 7 steel legs, no doors, no windows. And Akola herself, she's the daughter of Kurtulagon, the smith god, and Aphiz, the wind goddess. So she's literally born of forged metal and pure air. Stability and motion combined.
And her power is peace. The stories say her singing stops wars. Lances fall, horses kneel. But you can't reach her because the walls are smooth, they reflect weapons. So the tower itself forces a non-violent approach. Does that reflection mean violence just bounces off the problem of peace?
That's exactly the metaphor. You cannot fight your way to harmony or understanding. The tower simply won't allow it. Physical force is useless. The hero who tries to reach her is Uruzmeg. He's Soslan's father, the elder Nart leader. And his initiation isn't about attack, it's about endurance and kind of cosmological alignment.
He has to walk around the tower for 3 days and nights, against the clock.
Oh, why walk counterclockwise? Against a natural flow.
To step outside the normal order of things, by moving against the flow of time, against the heavens, he's showing this absolute commitment to transcend everyday reality. It's only after doing this on the fourth day that crack opens in the wall, like the mouth of a giant. And the warning is pretty stark. Who enters will not exit, who exits will not enter. It's a one-way transformation. And once he's inside, he faces the 7 trials. 7 circular halls, each demanding total self-confrontation. This isn't just a gauntlet, it's like a psychological machine designed to strip away the heroic ego. Let's walk through these because they sound incredibly insightful.
Okay, first is the Hall of Mirrors. Your reflections try to steal your soul if you look twice. Demands absolute focus on the present moment. Get caught up in your self-image, you're lost.
Then the Hall of Winds. 7 whirlwinds demand his mother's name. If he shouts it, the wind carries him away, so he has to know who he is, deep down, but keep that core identity sacred, private, not boast about it, internal knowledge.
Third, the Hall of Arrows. 1,000 arrows collide towards his voice. He can't be silent, but he can't scream either, or he gets hit. Teaches controlled expression, maybe. Using your voice with measure, like good storytelling without vanity.
Next, the Hall of Sleep. If you fall asleep, you age instantly, so no resting on your laurels, no comfort, constant alertness. Then, the Hall of Blood. A single drop grows into a river. He can't give in to fear, which just feeds itself, grows bigger.
The 6th Hall. This one must be tough for a hero. The Hall of Memory. All his past mistakes become living statues. And he can't look away. Heroes rely on their successes, right?
Yeah.
So facing failures is existentially threatening. He has to stand there and own his history, no excuses.
And the final trial, the Hall of Song. Oruzmig has to sing his own death, truthfully. If he lies, tries to make it sound more heroic than it is, he becomes just an echo, stuck repeating a lie forever. But he survives because he sings his death as if it were his friend. He accepts his mortality, his whole story.
Right, and Akola is waiting in the final hall on a steel throne, holding a silver harp. But her message is profound. She says, "You passed, but I am not a prize. I am the gate, not the house." She doesn't become his wife or his possession. She kisses his forehead, leaves an iron flower mark on his chest. It's a sign of passage, not ownership.
That difference passage, not ownership, feels critical for understanding Nart wisdom, doesn't it? He goes back to the Narts. Old, yes, but wise. Marked by the knowledge he gained. The message seems to be that real knowledge comes through this kind of structured, painful self-look, often mediated by feminine wisdom, and the result isn't getting something but becoming something different, irrevocably transformed.
It really is a fundamental lesson in what you might call spiritual technology. Before we move to the ultimate cost of transformation, maybe we should quickly recap the meaning of some of those recurring keys we've seen. These objects are like the symbolic shorthand of the Nart world.
Good idea. We have the apples of resurrection, 3 types, right? Each for a different stage of life. Reviving, Mardalutin, healing, Renelutin, and life-giving, Sardalutin. The archetype of immortality connecting to the tree of life.
Exactly. Then there's the 3-legged table, the Avdiaji. This is all about community strength, abundance. It's a self-filling table. Provides endless food and drink for 7 days and nights.
And finally, wolf's milk, which is central to Soslan's origin. He's born from stone, which is unnatural, but Kurtulagan makes him strong, immortal, by quenching the red-hot baby Soslan in wolf's milk.
Right, the wolf is the psychopomp, the guide between worlds. And the milk is this raw, primal, non-human life force. It's necessary for his initiation, connects him to wild, chthonic power, makes him dangerous maybe, but incredibly resilient.
Okay, so we see these powerful objects, these intense journeys, but there's always a cost, isn't there? To get real knowledge or love, or to bring back life, the heroes have to give something up, something precious, or maybe accept a hard truth about themselves. This seems like the core engine of Nart storytelling, sacrifice. Giving up the self for the collective, or for deeper understanding.
Absolutely. Let's look at Sozlan again, but this time his marriage to the frog wife. It captures that tension perfectly between what society expects and what spiritual duty demands.
It starts with a bit of heroic carelessness, doesn't it? Soslan shoots his golden arrow, it lands in a swamp, he jokes, "I'll marry whoever finds it." And of course, it's found by a green frog wearing a pearl crown, Alamig Tudor.
And in the Nart world, your word is binding. Sozlan is publicly humiliated, but he's stuck. Alamig Tudor, who is actually the daughter of Tudor, the wolf god, cursed by a witch, she sets 3 conditions for the marriage.
First, they have to get married at midnight in the swamp. Second, he has to spend 3 nights in her underground world, Alam, without looking at her true non-frog form. And third, the really crucial one. He cannot say the word frog for a whole month, Why is that specific word taboo so important?
Because saying frog would mean he's giving in to the shame, focusing on her outward appearance. It signals he values his social status more than her inner reality, her cursed situation. By accepting the taboo, he agrees to see her soul, not just the shell, no matter what others think. Alam, her underground world, is called the inverse world, reflecting how their marriage completely flips Nart social norms on their head.
And the final initiation step. The king of Alam makes Soslan drink the blood of 7 underground snakes.
That sounds intense, fiery.
It's a blood oath, basically. And a test of acceptance, he has to consume the serpentine side of her reality if he accepts the underworld nature that comes with her hidden beauty. Soslan drinks it without flinching, showing he accepts this inverse truth.
And when she finally sheds the frog skin, she tells him the point of it all. I was a frog to teach you to see the soul, not the shell. But then the final sacrifice is hers, really. She doesn't stay human.
No, she wasn't meant to stay in one form. She becomes Win, eternal presence, love without needing a physical body. All that's left are their twin sons who can control the elements and the golden arrow. Avoiding humiliation, accepting the inner truth, that was the real test of love.
That theme of giving something up gets amplified even more when they go after the ultimate prize, the apples of resurrection. The 3 brothers, Sosan the strong, Atsamaz the singer, Batraz the archer, seek them after they're stolen by Alamai Elgar, who here represents old age trying to cheat death. Yes, this elder stole the apples to grow his own tree of life underground. But it's not working. The apples need the sun, the surface world. They're weakening. They aren't just objects, they need that solar life force.
The brothers go through incredible trials to reach him. They cross a bridge of feathers by thinking of stone, focusing their minds. They cross the river of oblivion because Atsamaz's heart makes the water remember their names. They finally get to the king, who's desperate because the apples are dying.
And the elder offers the apples back. But there's a catch. The test of surrender. They have to trade the apples for the thing they value most about themselves, the core of their heroic identity.
So Salzlan gives the strength of his famous right hand. He can't really wield his sword anymore. Atsamaz gives the voice of his harp. He can't sing aloud. And Batraz, the perfect archer, gives the sight of one eye. He sees only darkness with it. But wait, if they lose their main function, a blind archer, a silent musician, a weakened warrior, what good are they to the Narts, even with the apples? Isn't that just a devastating loss? Not really wisdom.
Well, it forces them to become something more than just their function. They stop being heroes who do things and become heroes who are things. They get the power to resurrect the dead Narts back, yes, but they themselves are transformed into guardians, not active heroes in the old sense. Soslan becomes a stone sentinel, watching eternally. Atsamaz becomes the mountain echo, forever remembering names and songs. And Patras becomes a star, the one that sees even in the dark.
Okay, I see. They shift from the earthly realm of action to the cosmic realm of symbolism. They trade their practical skills for eternal meaning. The moral hits hard. To bring back life, you have to give up a part of yourself, your ego-defined identity.
And this pattern of transformation through sacrifice reaches its peak, I think, in the story of the mirror daughter, Zawari's War. She's the daughter of the Sea King, Dambatir.
Right, Zawari's War was the embodiment of pure truth. She reflected everything perfectly, without distortion. But then Cerdin the Liar, the ultimate trickster and bad storyteller in the sagas, steals her shadow from a black mirror. He hopes everything he does will now look good in reflection.
Cerdin is literally trying to corrupt objective truth, the cosmic record. When the Sea King tries to get the shadow back, Cerdin smashes the mirror. The daughter's essence shatters into 7 waves scattered across 7 seas. This creates the mermaids, the Dambatirke. And the daughter can only be put back together by collecting those 7 waves. But each wave demands a sacrifice of truth from whoever finds it.
This sounds like the absolute deepest dive into self-confrontation we've seen. The heroes are forced into, psychological self-diagnosis. When Solslan finds the wave morning, it looks like a silver bracelet he puts it on, and the wave makes him see everything he's ever done with that hand, good and bad, no filter.
To keep the bracelet, he has to give the strength of that right hand. The hand itself then becomes a mirror that shows his enemies their own sins, their own future deaths. He sacrifices physical power for the power of absolute truth.
Atsamaz finds the wave noon, a mirror-like gaze out in the desert, and his own reflection speaks, telling him, "You sing for glory, not for truth." He's forced to face his own vanity, his ego, and his art.
So he gives his voice to the wave. He can now only hear music in silence, and only things when others look directly at him. He trades fame for inner listening, for authenticity.
And Betrez finds the way of evening. He sees an arrow flying straight at him, hears his own last word. Goodbye. He's confronted with the absolute certainty of his own death.
So he sacrifices his death itself. He becomes immortal, but pays a price. He dies every sunset and is reborn every sunrise. He becomes eternally bound to the cycle of time, experiencing death daily.
Even Don Batir, the Sea King, has to give something. He gives up his immortal boredom, becoming the entire ocean, just to provide the final wave, the unshed tear needed to complete his daughter.
And the resolution is just brilliant. The daughter comes back, but she's not restored to how she was. She's transformed. She's now a composite being made up of all those sacrifices. Sozlan's mirrored hand, Atsamaz's echo voice, Betrez's cyclical death. She becomes the Don Baturke, who only appears when someone is truly ready to face themselves. And the effect of seeing her. You lose the ability to lie to yourself, but you gain the ability to forgive.
Wow. The knowledge gained through this incredible storytelling is so clearly tied to the scale of the personal sacrifice. The sagas seem to be teaching that the highest heroism isn't about winning battles, but about giving up parts of yourself to gain a deeper, truer wisdom.
Absolutely. If you pull back and look at the big picture, the Narts sagas are giving us this incredibly sophisticated mythological toolkit. It's like an instruction manual for human development. But knowledge isn't in books. It's earned through really painful self-confrontation, through initiation, mediated by these powerful symbols, the mirror, the tower, the transforming animal. The heroes consistently trade their functional power for existential understanding.
It really raises a fundamental question that seems to run through every single story we've talked about today. It looks like the Nart heroes only achieve their greatest feats when they accept loss. They lose strength, voice, sight, even their stable identity, but they get a higher, purer form of wisdom in return. The absolute core of Nart storytelling feels like it's not about heroic gain, but about profound, purposeful sacrifice.
They really embody that deep truth, don't they? That you have to dismantle the ego to truly serve the community, the larger cosmic order. Ruzmeg leaves the Iron Tower old but wise. The three brothers save the world but become cosmic symbols. Atamaz gets his heart back, but only after learning to use it with the heart of his people. The wisdom of the Narts is really the wisdom of self-dismantling.
So we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on, drawn right from the sources, now that maybe you feel their incredible weight a bit more. The Iron Tower stands to this day between two seas, that ultimate world center, and if you happen to hear a song that makes weapons fall, that's Akola singing. What modern conflicts, or maybe what personal struggles, might require us to seek out our own Iron Tower, that center of nonviolence and self-confrontation? What comfortable ideas about power might we need to sacrifice just to have a chance of hearing that song of peace?
Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we are taking on, well, a really deep cut into human antiquity.